at the very top, there's a little red recording button. So apparently, when this application is recording, it makes us look better.
Oh, I'm all for that.
Give me all the help.
All the help.
Give me all the help.
Yes.
It's telling me my quality is back to 2160p.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hi, Rachel.
Hi, Mark.
How was your week?
It's only halfway through.
Well, I meant since we talked to Alan. We talked to Alan a week ago.
We did. Yes. It's been good. It's the end of the year still. Same answer. It feels that every day is a marathon.
Yeah. And surprisingly enough, while the schools are winding down, I think that many of us are just winding up to get through budget, wrapping up our budget seasons. And I know for us, we are in the process of putting together a tech levy committee because we have to run another tech levy in a couple of years, but it's time to plan it now. So that's happening. That's a lot of busy work for us.
Remind me, in Washington, does every district go on the same schedule?
No. And in fact, there's a number of districts that don't even run a technology capital levy. A lot more now because of our funding issues. A lot more districts have had to do it, but we are thankful, not to rub it in our friends to the South's faces, but we're thankful that we get to because it does help a lot and it gets us access to some really great resources that would be difficult to obtain otherwise.
Stabilizes funding, kind of flattens the curve, the peaks and valleys that I think many of us in Oregon have.
So, and quite honestly, we're very thankful to our communities for approving our enrichment levies, our capital technology and safety levies, and our bonds. Without them, we would not be where we're at. So thank you to the Olympia community and all of those communities that have passed your levies.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's still mysterious, and we're very jealous usually. Your dog played a starring role in the Discord today.
Yeah. So I'm solo dog dadding it right now. And I took my dog to work today and it was her first time going in. She's an absolute sweetheart and she's very calm, very calm. And she just wandered around and snuggled up to people and I put some pictures in Discord.
Yep. And I assume no one was unhappy to see Guppy today.
No, actually, there have been some tough conversations with the staff this week. And one of them was, we were sitting on the floor, of course, cuddling Guppy. And she said, "Thank you for bringing her in. This was the morale boost that we all needed today," because she's just such a sweet dog. So speaking of the Discord channel and the Plugged In podcast, if folks saw my email that went out today, actually, I built a new channel. Talk about things I can't believe. I can't believe I have the power to make channels in our Discord server. They should have never let me have that either. But I made a channel in the Discord server for podcast ideas. And I know that our good friend Jeff Gibbs in Oregon used an AI tool to generate a whole bunch of ideas based off of interest from our email thread. So he posted that. But again, if any of you have ideas for this podcast, we would love for you to drop them into that channel. And the idea with this is you drop it in and you put someone's name, even your own name. So don't be shy at all, but put in a name so we know who to look at or talk to or contact about that topic. And then look through the list. Don't just put your stuff in and then pretend like there's nothing else there. Look through the list for other interesting things. And if something like stands out to you, like I would love to see that as a topic, just like it. Do something, interact with it some way, because like a lot of the upvoting things, we'll be able to see which topic is getting a lot of traction that way and help us, make some decisions on future content for this podcast. So please use that space.
It's a good invitation, Mark, and it goes kind of with why it's just the two of us this evening, and we haven't already brought someone on the stage with us. We're halfway through this podcast pilot. And we've had a lot of conversation all along, right? Text messages, quick calls as we think of things for this past 6 to 8 weeks. And one of the things that I know that we both have realized is that we know, I think between the two of us, we know hundreds of people in ACPE. And for the most part, I think the two of us also pay attention to things and can tell you who's really interested in what for a lot of those people, but not all of those, however many hundred people. And one of the things that I would like to have happen in this vehicle is that some of the people who lurk, some of our like hidden experts, people who know who they are.
Lurkers, Rachel.
Well, lurking online is a thing. It's totally legit thing, right? Some people don't want to necessarily be in the conversation, but I have learned over many years now how many people are listening and watching, and they're just, their vibe isn't jumping in with a comment, and sometimes not even with a reaction or an emoji. So I think that because of the group and regional meetings you have in Washington, because of the regional meetings and the work that we do in Oregon. I know that there are people that you and I don't know the name of that are hidden experts or have some really great superpowers and talents. We're going to get to the regulars and the usuals and those of us who are active and chattering all of the time. But I'm really hoping that we get to meet some of the people in ACPE who aren't already on our list and who we don't see as often chiming in, but also have really great stories and really great knowledge to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we're halfway through. We have not been canceled.
Shocking.
And we thought we might take this evening to reflect and recap. We're going to run down just a couple of news items and then wrap it back up with things that we hope for in the next 6 episodes. This will be officially episode 6 of the 12. And then we'll hold ourselves to it and try to make this better every time we're together. Folks may notice a different kind of vibe and feel again in terms of the technology. This is the 3rd technology switch up that we're doing through this. We're comparing different products. Each of them have had strengths and each of them have had some challenges. And so you'll see us moving through this pilot, testing things out, learning things, and we'll kind of circle back to that at the end of this episode. But before that, this week was the CoSN drop of the State of EdTech District Leadership Report, Mark.
It was.
Did you have a chance to download yet?
I have browsed the high points of it. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, but I did not get into it too far. Were there any points that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I haven't read every single section yet, but I think I agree with the top 4 items of note around our concern for E-rate funding and the federal support for connectivity in schools, the promise and the challenges and concerns around AI. As I think about it in the K-12 space, it seems like a lot of the sponsor partners and vendors who are doing work that is like a walled garden for schools. In general, I've heard positive feedback and teachers with a lot of excitement and lots of questions from parents and communities, but it feels like those are in the right lane for the work that we do, and in contrast to some of the flameouts in the more public AI space, which I think we'll touch on later. Cybersecurity is 3 of those 4, and obviously that's still a daily presence and worry in our lives. And then interoperability and the scale of all these apps that we're trying to keep running for students to be able to walk through the door and use.
And cybersecurity is so closely tied to E-rate now as well. And then you layer on top of that our current federal administration who, made it a little easier for people to be bad actors in our country, which just feels so anti the work that we do and worry about all the time, because education honestly is such a huge target right now because we are considered, I hate to say it, and no offense to anybody, but we're a soft target.
Yes. And also enough districts are still getting business email compromise and sending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars out in checks, also a hard target as well. Yeah.
Although I did get, and I just had heard about this from a vendor friend, I got a phishing invoice on a company's letterhead for a product that we didn't buy. But I have heard, this is kind of the funny thing. I heard a school district got an invoice from a company. They paid it. I'm trying to remember how this worked. Basically, an invoice went to a reseller. They fulfilled it, and they stopped fulfilling it because they were trying to send the equipment to a different place where it would get intercepted and stolen. And so now our vendors are getting phished in a way to steal equipment, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a little.
Yeah, the bad actors are still at it. And there is that uncertainty around that kind of high-level panic when MSISAC was going completely away and CISA was going to stop the vulnerability cataloging and communicating the vulnerabilities and the active threats and the exploits. And some of that's been rolled back, but I think it feels like, okay, but we're not sure about two or 3 weeks from now what the status is.
It's just the uncertainty of everything. Rash decisions seem to be made.
And then rolled back, thankfully rolled back in many cases. But even small school districts are generally large organizations in their community. And when you're running larger organizations, the stability of decision-making and knowing what to expect during a school year is definitely something I think we've taken for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you had highlighted another point that I would love for you to chat about, because this will, sorry, not to speak for you, but this will absolutely be a podcast topic too.
Yes. So some of the demographic information that came out of the survey. First of all, I really appreciate CoSN, number one, for leading this survey for so many years now. And number two, for providing some of the key elements behind the scene, as well as the thoughtfulness and the design of the survey and the report itself. So I flagged 3, and I'm going to take the first one. And it is that the female respondents declined to 29% in 2025 compared to 37% in the previous year, 2024. And that's a pretty big drop. So CoSN notes that it's notable. They have some ideas, maybe why, but definitely that big of a drop in 1 year is something that they will monitor moving forward, to use their exact words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that, and we talk about the Women in Tech group at ACPE all the time, I think will be an amazing topic here because it's just an amazing group. And I think that ACPE supports everybody who wants to be in the educational technology field. And that's just one group that is doing amazing things. So can't wait for that episode because I'm sure we're going to have that episode.
We are going to have that episode. And that drop, the thing that's important to me individually is that seems to be my experience in my daily life right now, where we've had some retirees recently, some strong female CIOs and leaders who have retired. And in my region and in certain parts of Oregon, I'm not sure how Washington is doing. It's not even that people are not hiring female leads. It is that there is a lack of women applying for the leads.
But I will say that I look forward to that episode because first and foremost, I would say if you don't want me there, that's fine. But if you do, it would be very much like that RTM we went to, Rachel, where I sat at your roundtable for women in technology and I was the only guy.
The only guy. Yep.
And you guys kept talking to me. And I was like, I'm just here to listen. And they're like, no, we want to know what you think about this. And I'm like, no, don't ask me these things. I really did enjoy that roundtable, though. It was great. I will take one of the points because I talk about this all the time, just not in a sense of data, but just in my own path to my position as a CIO. In 2015, the majority of EdTech leaders, 58%, came from an education background. And in 2025, the majority is now 52% coming from a technology background. Yeah. And I've always kind of thought it's 50-50. It's just always felt that way through the years and years of our South Sound tech leader meetings and ACPE and those things. I am not so concerned about the percentage change about this more than anything. I'm glad that my suspicion was confirmed that it's about 50% because when I do talk about, and when I'm with people from other industries in, tech leadership roles, I love to explain that I was an elementary school teacher. And then I was a technology trainer, TOSA. And that's how I worked my way into this position, which is unlike any other industry that deals with, CIO types of leadership. And then I say, it's about half come from the classroom and about half come from industry. And it's you can tell who is who. Very much you can tell who is who in how you understand how a classroom works. You understand how a teacher thinks. And I know that people have been in education for a very long time who weren't from the classroom, and you think, I know how a teacher thinks. I've been around them a long time. I understand how a classroom works. And it's, yes, you do. And but at the same time, unless you've been there and standing in front of the kids and instructing and working with other teachers, there's a little piece that's missing. And so I'm not the strongest, most technical person. Rachel definitely outshines me in every aspect of that. But I came from the classroom, so I feel like I have a pretty decent understanding of school district, operations, politics, and what it is like to be a teacher. Yeah. That is it's a valuable thing for us. And I'm glad to see that the shift is still at about 50% because we need both. We absolutely need both.
We do. And I have an observation from probably 2012 through 2016. What happened was, and I know this because of some touch points for me, and that was in 2009 and 10, Oregon started rolling out Google Apps. We were that first state in the nation. There was some press junkets and things like that because we had signed this state agreement with Google Apps for Education. And then a couple of years later, there was a small group of us who we were in Mountain View quite a bit that year because we were doing training and some of the project coordination on behalf of our Department of Education. And some of us were right there when the CR48s, which would become the Chromebooks, were being developed. And we got early access to those, and we were actually the testers, the controlled testers for those devices before they eventually became the Chromebooks. And during that time, what's happening is that Web 2.0 and social learning online is ballooning. And it's hard to remember that it's both been that long and also not been that long ago. And so what I noticed was that those TOSAs that you're talking about in the early 2010s, right, the Web 2.0 kind of full bloom, were the role and the skills and the pieces that most districts wanted in the lead role for the technology leadership. What I also noticed then was that for some of them, they met every challenge, and they're like a Mark Elliott in your technical knowledge. You are highly technical, and you also understand the classroom deeply. And there are others who really, their heart stayed in the classroom and the EdTech side of it. And that is not saying anything bad, right? What started happening was this kind of swing back to the scale then that we need to manage, going back to that cybersecurity, interoperability, and some of what I call the hard tech side of things. And so I think there's just been this kind of natural, river moraine, right? A glacial moraine, like making a river, in terms of good job to districts flexing through these times and choosing the leaders that make sense for those certain eras.
Yeah. And, it's still sitting right around 50%. Which I think is, again, I come back to the value of that, and having the ability to have a conference, let's say like ACPE, where half of the people are from the classroom and half of the people are from industry, and it just broadens the conversation in a way that it just comes back to why you may say I'm technical. I can speak the language because I've been around you. I didn't go to college for it, but it's like CETL, right? So you're trying to understand both sides of what it means to be a CIO. Though for those of you from industry are picking up on a lot of what it means to work in a school the longer you're with us. So it's super valuable.
Yes. And I'm a little bit of a hybrid blend where I was classroom and library, but definitely came up through. My bachelor was history and my master's was information science and programming since I was little, just because of my parents. So, yep. So another thing that as I sit here in this demographic is the age part. And Mark, we should do a check on, am I allowed to talk about ageism?
Well, you're in Oregon. And so we did our civil rights training a couple of weeks ago for Washington, but 40 and above is a protected class in Washington. So I don't know, Rachel. I think you're almost there, but you're not quite there.
Oh my gosh, no. I am solidly in the 61% of female respondents to this year's survey that are 50 and older. And by contrast, only 52% of the male respondents are under 50. Those of us who are women in leadership are older, right? Like with a broad brush.
Yeah.
In this sample size.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So lots to unpack from that report. I imagine that we'll have a guest on here in the weeks ahead, and maybe we'll kind of circle back and take a couple of those topics a little deeper with some of the subject matter experts in ACPE.
Yeah, maybe we'll get someone from CoSN.
Or CoSN. Yes, that'd be great too.
We know some people.
That'd be great too.
We do know some people.
That'd
be a great conversation.
Is it okay if I sneak in a few diamond thank yous again this evening?
Absolutely.
Okay. And apologies for those listening. I have dogs that are getting anxious because Mark and I are starting late this evening and they're getting HUNGRY. So if you hear some background noise, I'll try to cancel it out, but that's what's going on here. Okay. So last of our 3 thank yous for our diamond sponsors. And also an addition of, I kept saying a couple of the diamond studios, that hydration station is the one I was most addicted to, those liquid IV and the very cool reusable bottles that we all walked around with. But also wanted to note that we had one of the studios with a caricature artist, again, outside by the moonlight, in the moonlight pavilion. We had the air hockey and the foosball tables. And then there was another room that had that step and repeat photo booth thing where it's spinning around you. And then the blackjack dealer was back this year. We talked about the casino room earlier, but forgot to mention that there was a blackjack dealer. So this evening's thank yous are to Advanced Classroom Technologies, ACT, CDW, and CVE. 3 very rhymey 3-letter acronyms.
That's
and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for your, in these cases, long-term support of ACPE and the conference we host each year.
Thank you so very much. Just love having you there. And the spaces, honestly, the spaces are so fun to go into. I just love it. But to get kind of back on track, Rachel and I, we just wanted to kind of debrief how we thought this podcast has been going. We know that we're picking up listeners, and it's awesome. We both were approached during ACPE by members and by vendors. It was pretty fascinating, and it wasn't a ton, but every now and again a vendor would stop me and say, "I came across your podcast. I don't even know how it happened, but it was a suggested listen for me, and so I started listening, and this is so fun." I love all of our guests, and I think we've done a great job, but we're no smartless or anything. But the thing I think is so great about it is it's personal to our membership because they know what we're talking about. We're talking about them. And our vendors, that's just a testament to the fact that our vendors feel like they're part of our organization too. And they understand the things we're talking about. Yeah. And they understand the people that we're talking about. So there's this kind of a personalized ownership of this podcast. And Rachel has said it before too. She goes, "This is like us keeping the conference going." And it just feels good. Sorry.
That's okay. You're going to hear someone's agreeing with you. Can you hear?
Oh, yeah. It's okay.
Radar is saying, yes, Mark. That's exactly right.
So I think that people, really enjoy the podcast because it feels like an extension of the conference. And you've mentioned that a number of times.
Yes, it does. I think that was part of our proposal also. This really started a couple of years ago, and we were still coming back to capacity after the pandemic. And then more officially last October, when it was like, we're going to put together a formal proposal. And we put together that proposal. And part of it is that we have outgrown a single conference, especially for a couple of years. We've always gotten the wait list pretty small, but we are still at the point where we sell out. And so trying to find spaces and places for us to continue the conversation is important.
Back to Rachel's point, though, I just feel like we want to expand the reach of ACPE a little bit and get a little more involvement outside of just May. And the podcast is just a great way to keep those conversations going. I was actually thinking about this yesterday. About the podcast feels like the early 2000s when we would sit in those big houses and we'd sit around the living rooms and it would just be 20 people in a conversation talking about educational technology and some grand discussion. And it wasn't just district people, it was vendors. Mm-hmm. And people would just pop in and pop out of the conversation, in and out, just with not saying, "Can I join your conversation?" You just sit in, you talk, you get up and you leave. This has felt like the thing that I have missed. That's the one thing I've really missed from those houses, was having like a living room space that was so casual just to have a conversation. And believe me, everybody knows that I can talk now. So if you didn't already.
I remember a time, do you remember when the unconferences were pretty big? And we ended up doing tabletops and birds of a feather and things like that. I'm not talking that. I actually think those houses and the unstructured conversation that happens at ACPE is one of the original unconferences, and we didn't need to recreate an unconference in ACPE because it is the nature of the conference itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
So as we use this podcast and as we learn together, one of the things that I've been really reflecting on this week is the tech. And I think I mentioned that, we've been trying out a few different platforms, trying to get this right, because we are a small team of 2 right now. Yeah. We don't have a producer. We don't have a college intern. It is our evenings. It is trying to learn the tech, trying to think about how to be podcast producers. And so I think the couple of things that I want to note is that for those of you who are following along, I get pretty animated in my face, but I have to knock it off these moments when I'm like, I get really excited about things.
I still do it.
I get excited about things, and I don't have a poker face on the podcast, at least. But for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, like there are these moments where your head jerks or you hear these really quick breaks in the video, it's because we are using some of these AI tools that many of the podcasters are using to help speed essentially the rate of sound. Number one, we're not speeding up our voices. We're just taking out ums and ahs and the breathing spaces and things like that. You'll hear a lot of the big...
Sorry.
Can't take you anywhere.
No.
You'll hear a lot of the well-known national podcasters using this type of technology as well, because many people listen to podcasts on a 1.2 to 2 times speed. And so really removing some of those spaces and ums and ahs just helps that along to then hear us in our natural voices. But there are some awkward breaks. You'll also notice us experimenting with trying to make sure that we get the sound right and the mics right. And you'll see me tonight with the mic way closer to my mouth because I usually do speak a little more quietly than Mark does.
Yeah, and my mic is in my face.
Yes, we look like old-timey radio broadcasters. I've been reflecting on the conversations, and that's the part where, while I'm kind of like wrinkling my nose sometimes when I can't get things clipped the right way, or trying to figure out how to transition a cold open, and we don't have audio tools to do some of the blends that we might do if we just dropped it in Adobe. The conversations have been a double plus.
Yeah.
That's the easy part.
It is. We have had the most awesome guests so far. I mean, I'm going to be honest with everybody, including you, Rachel. I was like, are we actually going to hit an hour on any of these things? And for those of you who, I mean, just to be completely transparent, we typically go an hour and a half. I think we went an hour 45 on one of them. And Rachel has just taken on this horrible responsibility of trying to cut it down to an hour. And we have had some amazing conversations. So I think it's been great. And I don't foresee us having problems with that.
I think we're going to have to work on not getting canceled, because my list is already long, and I know your list is, and that's before we started the channel for the nominations.
Yeah.
So yes. And we also have to include some people, right? That we already keep mentioning in episodes, like Chris.
Gosh, I knew you were going to do this to me. Rowboat? No.
Rowbotham.
Oh, yes. Chris Rowbotham.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
We're sorry, Chris.
Chris, we have big plans for you.
Yes. Remember the 6 Degrees of Newberg, Oregon? That's the Chris session, right? Band directors and music tech.
We'll get my dad on
here. We'll get back to music tech. That's what we should do.
We should surprise Chris and my dad and have them both on the podcast at the same time. I think that'd be hilarious.
It's probably not going to be a surprise at this point if Chris happens to listen to this episode.
Well,
but
you can edit that.
I like this idea. So.
The funny thing about that, you kept saying Chris, and it took me a second to pick up on what you were doing, because there's so many Chris's in our community that I was like, Chris Hagel, Chris Bailey, Chris Robotham. And it was just like, dude, sorry, other Chris's that I've missed, because there's just so many that have been such a significant part of our community. I was like, oh yeah, that Chris and that Chris. And then I was like, we're doing the thing.
Yes, we're doing the thing. I think we should bring each of the board members on for people to get to know the people who are stewarding this organization. So we'll make our plans in our calendar and get things dialed in. I've also been reflecting on, maybe it's just me, but it's hard hearing myself and seeing myself. And in general, I think I just have so much fun doing it. I'm not over worrying about it, but I have been reflecting on what I hope to do differently as we continue doing this.
I've listened to all of the episodes, which it is sometimes difficult to listen to yourself. And I know that I speak quickly and that I mumble. Like, I've always done that. And I've started to wonder, if I recorded podcasts when I was a kid and did it regularly, would that have adjusted the way that I speak? Because now I think about it, like, I get excited and then I start talking really quickly and mumbling. But I do try to make an effort to not do that on this podcast, because I've listened to myself now. So I'm making an effort, everyone. Thank you.
I have not had to edit very much of you.
On the other hand, when you say that, I think of censor. And yes, we don't want any more explicit warnings for our podcast, like episode number 4. Thanks, Steve Langford.
Yes.
Was it Steve? I don't know.
We're still doing another review check with Apple. Their AI is maybe getting some things wrong, like some other AIs.
At least it's not Grok.
Yes. Topic for another day, maybe. Yes. I think for me, one of the things I reflected on is, number one, I say right. That is my right, like my catchword, my transition word. So I cut a lot of Rachel saying the word right out of these episodes. But I would also like to really dial in my question asking. And there are a couple of times that I just ask a direct one-sentence question. There were a couple of times that I did that early on that I don't think I framed it well enough because there wasn't much response. But then I've also had a couple of moments where I ask 2 or 3 sentence questions. And I think I want to ask shorter questions overall. But what I have noticed in listening to a lot of other podcasts is I am not alone. And Mark, you do this also. You frame the questions, you give some context, and then you actually tease out the question itself. So I want to find a middle ground there. I don't only want to ask one sentence, completely blind
Somebody
questions.
wants to join the podcast.
Hello, Guppy. Guppy can't hear me.
No, Guppy can't hear you. But
Guppy had a big day today.
Guppy got to go to work today, didn't you? You were office dog. Everybody loved you.
Is Guppy Hungry also?
Nope. She was good.
Okay.
She got hers.
Okay. Oh, an early dinner.
Yeah, 6 o'clock,
Yes. Oh, we're a late dinner here.
Yeah.
We're a late dinner here. Yeah.
No, I feel like I'm the opposite. So I listen and I'm thinking I frame too much. And it's something that my staff gets on me about all the time. They are like, you won't, like they'll host our technology advisory committee meetings with teachers. And they're like, don't talk. Please don't talk. Please, we want to be done in an hour. Please don't talk. And I'm doing it right now, but yeah, I feel like I could get to the point faster. Like people understand what I'm getting at.
Yeah. But there's also a rhythm, right? Like we don't want it to be just, what did you do today? Is cybersecurity good?
What I would also like to say, and this is not a slight on our guests at all, we're still figuring all of this out. And thank you for those guests who have helped us learn these things. For example, awesome conversation with Joe Yamada. He joined us via Chromebook, which was...
We learned a lot.
That was not great. That was like back to the COVID days of Zoom. So if you watched the podcast, towards the end of it, it just kept getting progressively worse on the video. You could hear Joe just fine. We've had audio issues, either headphones or no headphones or whatever it is. So we are going to try and have a conversation with guests before they come on about trying to test their microphones for audio quality to make sure that it's not too bright or too brash. So those are some things we're trying to fix. Obviously, we don't have a studio that we're in that we bring people to, and we don't have a budget to send microphones out to people.
Right.
So we are homebrewing this.
Yes.
And
ooh, I have an idea.
Okay.
Last episode, you mentioned that shower that was a server room.
Yeah.
I bet the acoustics are pretty great.
It sounded like fans.
Okay, never mind. Strike that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure it would be great acoustics, but it was full of overheating servers.
Oh, okay. Yes, I bet it would be great acoustics.
Yeah.
Back to Joe for a second. It was fun debriefing at the end, realizing that, it's probably the Chromebook.
Well, yeah, and it was a different technology we were trying.
Yes.
So now I'm really focusing on it. I did it right there. I got excited and I spoke too quickly. No, but it was a new tech that, not that we need to get too far into the technical pieces, but it was doing a local recording on every one of our computers. So it was blowing out the little processor on that Chromebook.
Yes. Just of the audio, but just that is enough.
Yeah.
To get that full high quality audio file. Yes.
But I mean, I think we've learned a lot, and I think the testament is that people keep listening and people keep leaving us comments and theme music.
Theme music.
We need theme music. We don't really need theme
music.
So
you're softly saying that you don't like the current theme music.
I think it's fine. I think it would be great if somebody made us our own song.
That would be very cool.
Or if we got like corporate sponsorship.
Yes. Enough that we could hire Above and Beyond.
Yeah, Above and Beyond would be so wonderful.
To create our kicker.
It would be great. No, yes. I mean, I think honestly, I couldn't have asked for anything more from this whole experience so far. I think it's just been wonderful working with you and getting to talk with one of my favorite people all the time now. So it's been great.
Yeah. And again, I love the living room aspect of it, that it would be different if we were doing this at our desk during the day.
Yeah.
It'd be like having a Zoom meeting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Even though it looks like I'm at my desk, I'm actually in my office at home.
Yes. Yep.
This is the video game TV.
It's the video game TV. Yeah. Yes. And the one episode when it kept reverting, I'm pretty sure Nicole was trying to cast.
She was just trying to play video games.
Yes. Okay, so I've been having a bunch of fun trying to figure out these cold open little snippets because we don't have a long theme song, and I think it's a 29-second clip of a longer song, and that has brought me some joy. I don't know if they're the same choices that everybody else would make, and maybe we should do a more formal intro, but
I'm not going to lie, it's the most fun mystery of when you post the podcast of what it's going to be.
Yes. Titles also, I'm kind of doing those in the middle of the night, not exactly the middle of the night, but how are we doing on that? Because I probably should run them by you ahead of time. I
mean, mine will be way less appropriate.
Okay, I'll keep doing the titles.
Like the Mindy the Farting Dog was just right at my alley.
That one there was no other choice for that episode.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. With Alan, This past episode, there were a few choices, and the thing that made me chuckle the times that I was kind of doing the first listen and the trimming, the second listen, fast, third listen, we were all crazy about mooks. That one is the one that I chuckled at, like vocally each time. So I thought that should probably be the title.
And it's true. We were
Yes.
like, oh my gosh,
we were all crazy
mooks
about
are so cool. We're all going to be educated for free.
That's the future. Turns out that
Harvard was
Dunbar's number, that idea of like the number of people that we can actually have meaningful trust and learning together with, is quite a bit smaller than the mooks.
Yeah. Well, and I just laughed because wasn't it Harvard or Stanford or somebody who was like, oh my gosh, you can go take a class at Harvard and it's free. And oh, really?
Zeitgeist, Mark Elliott, with Harvard's news headlines recently.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They might be in the MOOC business any day now.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Was it a course on constitutional law or something like that?
Yes. It'll be like a tip jar for the professors by this time next year.
Yeah.
Sorry, Harvard, we're not laughing at your pain.
No,
it's just
not at all. Not at all.
What a year. Yes. And then the big last thing that we need this evening before we actually do it is we keep doing cold open usually. That is easier to do, but the sign off, before we do the sign off, we should probably actually come up with a sign off, and we say it every week and we haven't done it yet.
Yeah. We need something catchy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is usually something I'm so good at, just on the spot. And like ACPE later.
Did you really just come up with that right now?
I did,
or have you been sitting on that for weeks?
E, and for whatever reason, I kept thinking it was going to end with the C, like APE, see you later. But no, that's all out of order.
Okay, let me try this. So ACPE, see you later. ACP, see you later.
Yeah.
Our letters are out of order.
They are. It's okay. I'll just end it with, we love you all.
Yes. Thanks to anybody who's taken the time to listen and those who have commented or liked or subscribed.
Please like and subscribe. I can't believe I said that. Cut that out. Cut that part out.
I wasn't going to say that, so I'm glad you said it. But it has been fun. I really do think we thought, somewhere between 4 and 12 people a week might listen. And it's many times greater than that now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Thank you, Rachel.
Of course. Thank you.
And
this has been pretty magical. And again, mostly magic because of ACPE, the community, and the guests who have been with us already, and the legions that will join us in the, I'm going to be bold and say, years ahead.
And I fully plan on sending this out to some of the people that I met at CoSN. But I will say we had one person who was just dead set against this idea, and we overcame it by having him on the podcast. And that was Alan. So, you too can achieve your goals.
Yes, revenge is sweet.
And we know that he'll never listen to this, so it's fine.
I don't know. He might be hooked now.
I know. He was making comments on Discord.
He was.
So
just that alone is a tell. That's a tell. Yeah. So, yes.
Okay. Well, Rachel, we have lots more of this to do in the future, so I'm looking forward to it. I know we were going to do a 12-episode pilot, but I already said to Rachel, I think I want to do more than 12.
Yes.
And please, again, big ask for helping us figure out our topics on the Discord channel. We have Rachel and I are running a spreadsheet of some topical ideas already, and anything you want to throw in there would be awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to many other conversations where sometimes we have dog interruptions and explicit ratings because of random curse words and then all of the wonderful conversation.
So we haven't cursed in this episode yet, so we shouldn't get an explicit rating, but I kind of want to say one just to make it happen.
I'm trying to figure out how to work it into the sign off so everyone is explicit.
Well, I wonder if this will get it, because you know how we always have an IT theme, something it. Mm-hmm. Dr. Joe Morlock always has wanted to have fork it.
Yes.
That's the conference topic. So maybe fork it will get us that explicit rating. We'll see how good that trigger. Apple AI is.
Yes. That one, it has hit the cutting room floor as often as the kilts have. And I still think it seriously, it makes me laugh just thinking about it.
Well, FAQ it would also be a pretty good one.
Yes.
So there you go.
The censors are going to come get us. This is what happens when we go after 9:00 in the evening.
This is true. Getting a little punchy. All
right.
Well, Rachel, I think that we all have to work tomorrow, and yes, we probably should.
We could do like rock, paper, scissors as our sign off, and keep a running tally of which one of us wins the one each night.
We could.
Each episode.
All right. We have to figure out so we rock, paper, scissors, and the winner gets to say goodbye.
Yes.
Okay.
I like
so
this
is
idea.
It 1, 2, 3, go?
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay. You ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
I can't.
The timing is weird on this.
It is.
But I get to say goodnight to everybody. So thank you. Bye.